Katala. One mind, one heart. We paddle together today to support our wild salmon. We support the legal action that is being taken by the Namgis and the Zawadena people who are entered into a strategic legal action, hiring the best lawyers, setting up the conditions for success. By supporting this legal action, we will get those fish farms out of their territory. When we get those fish farms out of the those territories, the rest will fall like a house of cards. That's how important it is for us to all gather up together like we're doing now. All the people who have been donating towards the fund that is going to make this a historic legal decision to have British Columbia once joined together with the state of Washington, with the state of Alaska, with the state of Oregon, with the state of California, to make the entire Pacific Coast fish farm free. Today, we are honored to have Chief Andy Phillips to come and welcome us to his territory and give us those words of encouragement that he can do so well. OCM, here is Chief Andy Phillips.
Titelumspath. Scowlitz to Scowlitz. Andy Phillips, I'm the elected chief for Scowlitz here. I'd like to welcome all of you to our beach and our village of Scowlitz. We are in the traditional lands of Scowlitz. We are in R number 1 at the mouth of the river here. We have the 2 rivers that meet that are very integral to our people. The Salmon people have been there for thousands of years. I'd like to thank Eddie as the president for being a warrior. Being a warrior to protect something that's so integral to our people for thousands of years. I watch social media to all of the efforts being made by Eddie and other leaders. I'd like to thank the other leaders who are fighting the cause to protect a resource that's been here for thousands of years. That is in danger of becoming extinct because of overconsumption, because of climate change, because of capitalism. So how do we promote sustainable development for future generations? And it starts on the ground with grassroots people like Eddie, who's not even an elected official for his community, but he's a warrior. And so I applaud Eddie for all he's doing, all the volunteers that have been marching with you, Eddie, during this journey. I'd like to thank the other First Nations for not necessarily being a warrior, but having to do whatever to do to protect this resource.
Right on.
And litigation is a source, is a mechanism that unfortunately First Nations have to resort to because there's no cooperation from governments. And so what are governments doing to mitigate against some of these challenges? Yesterday I watched on social media about 40 seine nets out in the ocean, and we are trying to fight for our own rights, to fight for our own wild salmon. And those are the kind of realities that we face today, about how economic development is the primary focus of government, but how do we create sustainable development?
Right.
That not only includes our fish people, but our trees, our plant people, all of our, the four-legged people. So we as Indigenous people are considered stewards of the land. And what are we doing on the ground to live up to that principle? Are we contradicting that principle? Are we following the rules of our ancestors that are unwritten? So I grew up with grandparents that taught me how to fish, taught me how to hang fish in the smokehouse, how to clean fish. I personally don't fish no more because I believe we need to protect it for future generations. And we're at a critical state with our wild stock salmon, and we need to be loud and boisterous like Eddie is. I met Eddie at a AFN Chiefs meeting in Vancouver earlier this year, and he was out front there rallying and trying to provide information to other chiefs to be on board for what we're doing here. I'd like to thank the paddlers that have come forward to for the cause, to volunteer, to show solidarity to the efforts. I really like to applaud, because the canoe is very integral to us too, and look how beautiful those things are. Right. So thank you again for all the ones that have come forward to volunteer to begin this journey over to Chilliwack, our neighbors across the Fraser. And I really again like to thank all of you for being here today to support Eddie and all of the efforts, especially the other First Nations, the leaders that are here. But the work is not done. We are by far finished to the cause, because there's numerous court cases that are still in litigation, and we shouldn't have to go to litigation if Canada truly wants to reconcile with First Nations. Right on. And that's my own belief, is that true reconciliation happens on the ground with meaningful dialogue, and not have to resort to litigation. And it's sad to say that we have to continue this fight this way. So I applaud the other First Nations, but we'll have to do whatever we do to protect it. And as one of 24 villages here in Stalo, we are prepared to support the cause, and so we'll make a financial contribution, not only from our village, but also our tribal council will provide a donation for the cause. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for the other leaders. Thank you for the drummers, the singers, the beautiful songs, the medicine for our people. And thank you, Eddie, for what you're doing. Thanks, sir.
ASEM, want to, on behalf of Shway First Nation, all the leaders from that First Nation, all the leaders from Squaw First Nation, the Wild Salmon Defenders Alliance, and thousands of supporters. On behalf of them, we want to just give you this little token of gratitude for collaborating with this paddle. And we offer this Wild Salmon t-shirt and a little tobacco to you, CM. Thank you very much. Yeah, so Chief, we do have Chief Robert Gladstone with us, and Councillor Tanya James. Where is she? Hey, all right. And yes, and we have our Squaw First Nation community leaders here, but we also want to acknowledge Chief Willie Moon and Melissa Willie. They came all the way down from northern Vancouver. And then we have Hereditary Chief George Quack Sister Jr., a Wild Salmon warrior. He has his Superman outfit on. He is a very courageous person who went out on the water and got that hard evidence that we needed to show that the world was shocked by the evidence that he provided with a GoPro camera, stepping onto the fish farm and facing up to the fish farmers and dipping a GoPro camera in there, showing that the fish farms are also a herring fishery, and our herring is endangered. And they're damaging our herring, they're damaging our wild salmon, they're polluting the migration routes of our wild salmon. And so our hands go up to George Quack Sister Jr., as well as Sea Shepherd. Let's give a big round of applause for Sea Shepherd. The Martin Sheen Sheepherder. Let's give a big round of applause for Dr. Alexandra Morton. She's an independent biologist who is doing the work of DFO. Shame on DFO for neglecting their duties, actually going against their own laws and a court order that requires the DFO to test Atlantic farm salmon for the Piscine reovirus. that has a Norwegian strain. It has been established that that virus with the Norwegian strain is in BC waters. And that virus can be passed on to wild salmon. And that virus also creates the disease heart and skeletal muscle inflammation. And if they catch that disease, it will make it impossible for them to make it up to the spawning grounds. There will be pre-spawn deaths, and it will add to killing our wild salmon. So this is the last stand for wild salmon. This is something that we will push over the hill by backing up the Namgis and the Zawadeno Nation, you know, in their legal battle. So let's give a big round of applause to Dean Svanvik over here, to Willie Moon, to Melissa Moon. Thanking Chief Don Svanvik for bringing his Wanuk canoe all the way from northern Vancouver Island. And let's give a big round of applause to all those people who are donating to bolster this financial fund to continue the battle that is going to make a big difference. It's going to make history with us here in BC, getting those fish farms out of the ocean. The fish farmers continue to deny their science. Science has proved that the Piscine Rio virus is in BC waters. The science has proved that it does have that it does cause heart and skeletal muscle inflammation, and it can be passed on to wild salmon. They continue to deny and ignore the fact that the Pacific Wild Salmon Foundation, through its science, has made a recommendation to get those fish farms out of the water and onto land in containment. They have ignored the fact that the Environmental Commissioner of Canada has told DFO, the federal government, that they failed to protect wild salmon from fish farms. Yet, business as usual has continued after 30-some years of the efforts of First Nations along the coast there, the Namgis, the Mamalili Kula, the Zawadenoch, the Kwakwasutnuk Haklamis, and other nations up there have been trying to get the fish farms out of the water for some 30 years with peaceful means, trying to persuade the government, using hard evidence, using science, yet not one fish farm has yet been removed. This is a shame, and that's why we're backing them up legally. We're also encouraged to have Kurt Beardsley with us here today. Kurt Beardsley is the Executive Director of the Wild Fish Conservancy in the state of Washington. And he spearheaded a powerful movement that got the state of Washington to legislate a phasing out of fish farms on their coast. And that's exactly what we want Canada to do here on the BC coast. We have the 5 canoes down there. They're ready for us to board. The signs are up there for those who have registered on each and every one of those canoes. They have the safety jackets and the paddles. Some of us have our own paddles. And we're going to board the canoes and make our way over to the Shway village. The agenda for the Shway, for us to make this journey, is to raise public awareness about the dangers our wild salmon face with fish farms, and to raise more awareness about this movement to raise the funds that is going to get the job done to get them out of there. And so when we reach over there, when we reach Shway Village, we're going to be welcomed by the communities of Squat First Nation and Shway First Nation. And then we're so honored to have the generosity, the compassion, the commitment of the people of the Shway village to host a salmon feast, a clam feast for the paddlers and all the supporters. Our hands go up to the Shway community for doing this for us. Hosiam Yakyukasai. Four of the canoes belong to Shway First Nation. Hosiam Yakyukasai.